Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Business and Life Stories with Mike and James, where we try to bring you the most interesting guests on the planet. And today we're so excited. We have got Mr. Jaime J with us. He's the owner of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, but you may know him from the Culture Eats Strategy podcast, which was really a cool thing for a while. He also did a program called Stop Riding the Pine. He did a 3D MBA program. And Jaime, I figure most people haven't bothered to click down on your profile on LinkedIn to the second, third screen there, but I found out you were actually in the 82nd Airborne, which if you don't know, the patch for that is red, white, and blue, their color patch. It's the All-American Airborne. They started in 1917 of all things. So definitely predating the 101st Screaming Eagles, or Screaming Chickens, as I like to tease them. And Jaime, how the heck do you go from being a mortar guy in the Army Airborne, which is, it just doesn't get much more badass than that, to being, this super cool podcaster guy. And what a change. And you've also got a new book out. So, man, is there what's next? Are you going to take a spaceship to Mars? I mean, you've done so many things.
Figure out how to connect with Branson and go up in his Virgin Galactic. That'd be amazing. Well, it does get a lot more badass than the 82nd Mortar, man. I mean, it is pretty fun jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with a big old mortar strapped to your side, and that's pretty hairy. But then you have the Rangers, and you have all these different elite forces, special forces, what was used to be known as Delta Force. Those guys are badasser, man. But it was a lot of fun. It taught me a lot of good lessons, and I was only in for one term there, so I had a good time, enjoyed it, and learned a lot.
So any secret mortar tricks you want to teach us?
All I know is you got to align the poles. That's it. You got to align the poles, and then you're good to go. And knowing what charge, how much they call it cheese, the charge is on there. You got to make sure that you got those things right. As soon as you got that right, as soon as you got the cheese down, then you know it's going to go the right amount of distance, and you won't accidentally over or under fire. So yeah, that's probably the mortar trick there. My best tip for the mortars is go direct infantry. Don't be an 11 Charlie, just be an 11 Bravo. Then you don't have to worry about humping these big old mortars around. It's some hard stuff to carry around. And on top of that, I was RTO, the radio telephone operator, because I was in the headquarters platoon. So I was humping both a SINGAR radio on my back with all of the stuff in the pack and the mortar. So it was quite a feet to be walking down the road with all that stuff.
Yeah, I bet you're almost carrying close to your own body weight.
Well, I know not my body weight, but yeah, good 50 pounds, 60 pounds. It was quite a bit.
Wow. So how in the heck did you go from that to all this other cool stuff you did?
Well, I actually got, when I got out of the Army, I kind of didn't really know what I was going to do when I got back. And so I went into corporate America, connected with a friend that I was working at a restaurant at the time as a server. And he went to work for a pretty big company, and they were hiring. So he invited me. I went over and interviewed. And before I knew it, I started working in corporate America, spent 12 years in corporate America, and spent about 11 years trying to figure out how to get out. And finally got out. And my first client was the company I was working for. It happened to be a radio station. And I started a little SEO creative web development agency, and kind of went from there.
So SEO is still kind of, almost like alchemy to some business people. Can you tell us a little bit about how that really works? Because obviously now these days, Facebook and Twitter and everybody else are full of all these SEO gurus to sell you high-priced courses, and you're going to be the next, Amazon. But how does it really work?
Well, it's changed a lot over the years, obviously. When I first started doing it, it was probably 2005, 2006, and I could get you ranked in 30 minutes.
Wow.
There was tricks and things that you could do. You can no longer do that. So there's a lot more work that's involved. And so I kind of leave that to the SEO experts now, because I kind of moved away from that industry, although I'm still somewhat familiar with it and very cognitive of the fact that SEO is very important. So we're very careful when we deliver anything online to make sure that we're getting optimization. I think one thing to take into consideration on that is you got to be really strong on your split testing and figure out what people really want. And what resonates with them. And then once you identify what's resonating with them, you can use a lot of those focus keywords and keyword phrases and supportive keyword phrases to help push out those keywords that are really resonating with people. So a lot of research and data takes a little bit of time. And a lot of people get frustrated because they're like, I'm paying this SEO guy and I haven't seen any results in 3 months. Well, 3-6 months down the road, you have to collect a lot of data over time. And that's part of the SEO game. Just like doing any research or anything like that, it takes a little bit of time to figure out what we're doing. We're working with an ad agency right now. We're approaching our 6th month with them. We have not one lead yet because of all the due diligence and research and split testing. We did over 600 different focus keywords that we split tested and keyword phrases. And, out of that, we received 44 gold coin winners, meaning that those were 44 that really resonated with people. And it was interesting how we came to that. So now we have good messaging and good copy. And next month we start rolling out the advertising campaign.
One of the cool things about your business, when you had the Culture Strategy podcast and also with Bottleneck VA, it's visible everywhere. Like when you go to LinkedIn, you pop up all the time. When we're looking for your, especially your podcast, your stuff would pop up. And so you've really done super great with that. But for, the average startup person, how do they go about even getting help to do the kind of stuff you're doing?
Well, I think a lot of it begins with us, us as founders, startups, CEOs, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. It all starts with us, and you have to have what it is that you're doing and be able to understand from a high level what it is you want to achieve. So your mission. What are your daily objectives in order to achieve your vision? What are the aspirations? What do you really want to do? What kind of change do you want to make in this world? And if you understand the vision, the mission, and then associate that with your core values, and Adoptly helps get the the car moving or the wheels spinning, because through that research and through that kind of brain dump, in my opinion, you get a lot of feedback and find out where the energy is and maybe even more importantly, where the energy is not. And so from that is a really good starting point, because you can start taking all of that information as long as you know kind of where you want to go. That's why I have a hard time with the word clarity, because even though you have good direction, you may not have clarity. And a lot of people strive for that clarity. And quite frankly, you can't see into the future about what's happening there. You may know where the destination is, but I also liken it to if you're traveling and you have to climb this mountain, get over to the other side to your destination. You can't see where it is you're going. You don't know. Maybe a bear walks up or something like that, and you got to change paths. You just don't know what's going to happen. And so as long as you have a good idea of where you're what you aspire to do through that vision, and then you're taking short strides every single day through the mission and achieve daily objectives, that helps to keep you motivated. And one other thing that I found that I made a mistake on is I tried to set goals early on. And the challenge with goals is once you set them down the road, for instance, if you want to buy a house, okay, great. What do you need to do to get there? Once you get there, perfect. Then what? What do you do after that? Or, hey, I want to sell my company. Great. You sold your company. What do you do now? Right? So the vision that you have to put in place is not only for the business, but it's also for your personal life. And that's why I don't believe in work-life balance. I just believe in life balance. And if you can intertwine those two to the best of your abilities, and then align yourselves with people that have a similar belief system than you do, then you're really on the right track. Because Nothing ever is going to work out 100% of the time. The way that I judge whether or not I can remain passionate about a project is that if I'm happy 75% of the time, if I'm doing something that's giving me energy 70% of the time, the 30% of the time that doesn't give me energy, it's okay, because I know I'm going to be rewarded with the majority of the work that I'm doing, like doing things like this I really love and I'm passionate about. So I'm okay with doing that 30%. It's where it becomes lopsided the other way, to where you might find out that, hey, I don't like doing this. That happened to me with my creative web agency. After building 1,500 websites, I became numb to it. And I was doing a disservice to my clients because I wasn't passionate about it. So I had to switch what I was doing and find something that I could really, really enjoy, that aligned not only with my mission and my goals to help entrepreneurs stop focusing on the wrong things so they can focus on doing their best work. I believe in that. And so everything that I'm doing now aligns with that. And what's really cool is the team that we have that are aligned with us and supporting us all have a same, share the same belief system, and we all aspire to achieve the same thing. So it's pretty cohesive movement. We're moving forward, and we really, really enjoy the process.
Yeah. What is like your magic sauce or your magic trick that you use for getting the right people? Because you're probably the best at it I've seen. I've seen some managers that are really, really good, but you've run a very flat organization, meaning there's not a lot of levels, and everybody's, anybody I've ever talked to at Bottleneck's had the same passion.
That means the world to me. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
One of the reasons I was desperate to escape from the vast cube farm of the aerospace industry was I was super passionate about building guidance systems, which became GPS, which now everybody has in their phone in their car. But so many of our managers were pulling in separate directions, or worse, going against each other. So how the heck do you pick people that have the same passion as you?
I think it has a lot to do with the questions that you ask, the way that you put yourself forward, and leading by example. So I might back up a little bit before I fully answer that question. First and foremost, I have an unbelievably beautiful wife that I love tremendously. And without her support, I don't think I would have realized any of this. And as long as we're on the same page, that brings in that personal element that adds to our vision. And so I'm a big proponent of family first. Some people will argue against that, and I've seen it on social media, and I 100% oppose that. Everybody on our team is somewhat of an extended family. And that's how we approach everything. We take care of each other. We allow for vulnerability, and we actually promote missteps. If someone drops the ball, every single meeting, they talk about their missteps. You know what? I'm sorry. I totally forgot to do this. You won't see one person roll their eyes. You won't see somebody laugh at a silly idea. You won't see anything like that within our organization, because we all understand where we need to go. As a matter of fact, when I first started introducing missteps into our agenda, it surprised me how many people stepped up to help out others that needed a little bit of a hand holding or whatever. And somebody might say, you know what, I've got some extra time this week. I'm going to help you out. What do you need to do? It provides accountability. It provides team. And having an environment that you're working in that offers vulnerability and promotes that is, I think, probably one of the core essentials to driving a pretty tight and I guess really good, as opposed to a regular or a toxic culture. So that right there, I think, is really good. But one of the things that we do is we ask a lot of questions. One great question to ask that I think everybody should ask in any kind of interpersonal communication, or if you're looking to hire somebody, is, okay, so why are you interested in working here? And the follow-up question to that is, what are you going to do when you leave Bottleneck? What are you going to do when you leave your company? What are you going to do when you leave this company? And a lot of times you get a face like, what? I'm interviewing for this job here. Well, what are you going to do? And that does two things for me. it tells me right away that they can feel safe if they answer the question correctly. The second thing is you find out what they really are passionate about. And that helps me to understand that maybe I can design a role within our organization that will fulfill what it is that they want to do so they stay on longer. I'm really proud to say the longest person that's been with us has been with us like about 8 years. We have a couple of people that are approaching 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. And that's not something that's too common these days. On average, turnover right now for millennials, at least, I just read a study in Gartner, is about 2.5 years. That's turnover. That's about how the churn rate from when they join an organization to go on to greener pastures, so to speak. And so we try our best to bring the people in, and we want long-term partnerships. And that's the real reason why we created our new category, distant assistants, in lieu of virtual assistants. We feel that virtual assistants are more transactional based. Distant assistants are more intimate based. They know more about what your vision is, what your mission is, what your core values are. They understand who you are. They understand your tone and your voice. And through that concept of understanding and leading with kindness, we see relationships build and last longer than they ever have before. As a matter of fact, if someone wants to use our company as a stepping stone to get on to do whatever it is they want to do, I'll be the first person to write a letter of recommendation for them, because they're very honest, they were very truthful in what their goals and desires were. They needed a platform or a vehicle to get where they wanted to go, and I'm happy to provide that.
I'm really glad you said that. It's been the practice of James and myself for a very long time. I'm really glad we're not just three voices in the wilderness. So while you listening to this, it's okay to do that for your people.
It's really, yeah. The last thing you want to do is when someone leaves your company is like, fine, leave, get out of here. I never want to talk. The last thing you want to do, because that person's going to go and tell other people how bad that company was.
Yep.
When someone leaves and they're going on to do something that they're really passionate about, they'll be one of your best referral sources. And that speaks volumes.
It's the old story of how Trimble Navigation ended up owning the civilian global positioning market, because Motorola sued them for hiring engineers away from Motorola. So you know what happened? Everybody left.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just seems so obvious to me. And I know it's not traditional. And it's, people think of it as we're losing something. People are doing an injustice. Why not flip that on its head and say, congratulations, we're so excited for you. As a matter of fact, one of the girls that used to work with us, she went on, she loved music. She was an incredible violinist, and she went on to play for the Manila Symphony. That's one of her goals. She ultimately wants to go to Juilliard. She wants to continue on. And then she went on further, and in continuing one of our core beliefs is the ripple effect, a positive ripple effect. And if we do something good in our own backyard, maybe we can do something good as we grow regionally, then nationally, then globally. And we really felt this impact through our organization, because we do reach global. We have global efforts in South Africa, in the Philippines, in Europe. I just talked with a girl earlier today from Macedonia that wants to join our organization. It's really fantastic. So we're able to touch those points. Now this girl in Manila, she got people to donate violins and instruments, and for free, she will teach kids how to play the violin. And that all started from this ripple effect that we have now kind of embraced within our organization. So hopefully we can create the ripple effect regionally, globally, nationally. It's just an incredible experience, an incredible feeling.
Makes me want to jump in and help create some ripples. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really makes working worthwhile. It really does. It makes it more enjoyable. We just recently had someone come in about once a month. We'll have someone come in and talk to the team, and she sent out a survey, and everybody on the team answered. I think we had 34 responses to her survey. And she said, what's really weird? I've never seen this before. And I said, what? She goes, and she's telling my whole team this. I have never seen a team that responded, they actually look forward to the meetings.
Yeah, there's the true test of leadership right there, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It really was nuts. And I was like, really? We have so much fun. You know, a different person in our team leads a meeting once a week. And then at the end, they do a 5 to 10 minute training. It's really cool because people get to see what it is they do. They get to understand. If you send something to our graphic designer and you're wanting it back in an hour, you understand why that's not feasible. They actually have to be creative and thoughtful and research. And there's a lot that goes into more than just design. And so one of the trainings we did, one of our designers created a cartoon character for Bottleneck. We use that character now, and we've animated it in our hiring. So we have a little animated character called Bottleneck Bob. And so it's just, and that came from one of our meetings. And it's just neat because everybody gets a chance to lead. Everybody gets a chance to share what it is that they do. And you can tell their passion comes through in that. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun that you're doing this. And I hope a lot more people catch the idea of running their companies this way because it's so cool.
It's fun.
So how did you end up starting Bottleneck? I mean, were you in Missouri at the time where you are now, or were you somewhere else? And was this like Jimmy needed to change what he was doing, or was this to help fund the new Harley? I mean, what was the impetus?
Well, I think it was a combination of a couple different things. It did start in Ozark, Missouri. I'm now in Springfield, but I was part of a mastermind group. And the first time I hired an assistant was in 2006. And at the time I had an ad agency. And my partner in that ad agency was from the Philippines, but we lived in California. And he said, I have a great way of scaling this thing up. Let's try it. I have some family and friends in the Philippines. And I thought, how are we? And you can imagine this technology did not exist in 2006. Right. Internet speeds were trickling, if at, on good days. So it was really challenging. However, I fell in love with the Philippines and, their work ethic, how kind they were, how much they always wanted to do right. And I've never looked back since then. And it was in about 2016 or 2015, I believe, I was part of a mastermind group. And I had been asked by a couple of the other members of this mastermind group, how are you finding these people? And I said, oh, well, just do this and this and this. Here, I'll find a couple. And they hired them. They started loving it. And they said, Jaime, you should do this as a business. And I said, really? Because I was building websites. And I thought, well, okay. And what was really nice, it was a pretty good sized mastermind group. So I had a nice little test group to work with. And a lot of people hired some assistants from me. And, we started building the company from there, and systems and processes. And I came up with the name through a conversation of a good friend of mine, Mark Hafner, because he told me, Jaime, you're the bottleneck in your business. You need to get out of your own way. And I said, that's a great name for the business. So we took that and ran with it. And the rest is kind of history. I guess we're creating the history as we speak too.
Cool stuff.
Jaime, we had the absolute pleasure of speaking to Glenda 2 weeks ago, Mike, 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And it was so wonderful to hit. She basically has said the same thing, Mike, hasn't she? How it's all about family and passion and vision, and there's such a sense of, by listening to you now, there's such a sense of continuity.
Yes. Glenda is our director of business development, and she's absolutely amazing. She is one heck of a go-getter.
She was wonderful.
Sure. Yeah.
It was such a wonderful conversation. And what I found was so many people talk about VAs from other parts of the world in terms of an economic way to scale. It's like, hey, rather than paying for a developer for 50, 70 bucks an hour, you can find one from India for $5 an hour, or like $10 an hour, or the Philippines, or and that's often what comes across as the first thing on people's mind when they're looking to VAs and whatnot, right? And what's so interesting is never once in Glenda's conversation and not once in our conversation so far has the monetary aspect come up. The conversation has been about family and them being so hardworking and passion, and the violinist who now teaches children. It's almost that's such a way of walking the walk as opposed to talking the walk, isn't it? It's that to me is such a clear definition of a CEO of someone who's leading through living their passion rather than just trying to grow the bottom line, right?
Oh my gosh, James, you nailed it. Yeah, it's so I can definitely go into pricing, challenges, things like that. No problem. I'd be happy to explore that with you and kind of share some statistics and what people are initially doing. Yeah, initially that's basically what it is. It's kind of like this. When you put out a job opportunity, a lot of people will sit there and talk all about their company and say, hey, we are we have bean bags and beer and blah, 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 to try and build culture up. And we found that people don't really care about that at first. At first, you need to be able to say, here's what the roles and responsibilities are so that people can say, yes, that's something that I can do and I would like to do. And this is how much it makes. And then just put a little blurb there. If you'd like to learn more about the company, click here. We've found that the number one thing after they've reviewed that original information is looking into the company and see how it operates. And that's the basic underlying factor for making that decision. It's kind of the same with our clients on that side as well. And so our clients are going to want to know, oh my gosh, this is going to save me so much money. That's what they're thinking. Or I need to see what this is, or man, you guys cost a little bit more than other people. I could probably hire somebody in the US for that. First of all, I doubt it, but we get a lot of that. But what really kind of tips them over the edge and gets them going is they see that there's structure in the environment and their systems and their processes. And I feel that if you don't have that structure and that system and that continuity within the message itself, that it's going to be really confusing for somebody to come in and want to work with us if they're getting all these different messages. And then on top of that, the pricing. Our pricing is very simple. It's a flat fee. It's a subscription-based model. It's super simple. There's not a lot of, crazy stuff going on there. We have no time tracking tools. There's no hourly rates. There's no random bills you're getting on your, when we're sending out invoice, it's always consistent. And we liken that to the team being on point, same message, understanding the vision, mission, goals, and a provocative point of view. And by the way, earlier, Mike mentioned that we are kind of flatlined. We do have a hierarchy. We do have an org chart. However, every single person on the team has as much say as anyone else. I recently talked with someone the other day that really wanted to work with us. And I said, boy, I would love to hire you, but I can't. I need to make sure that you can fit in with the team. So we passed it down. And they went through a couple more interviews to make sure that this person really resonated with not only me, not only my wife, but the other team members. And so it is part of kind of arduous task to get onboarded here with Bottleneck. But it's such a huge difference when everybody says, yes, this person is great, as opposed to one person saying, this person's coming on board, get ready.
One of the books, which for me was a bit of a kind of turned my world a bit, was and you'll have to forgive me, I've forgotten the author's name, but the title was called Reinventing Organizations. And a really amazing book, and it basically tells the stories of various companies which are in different industries and how they went from a hierarchical to a more autonomous way of operating, and how the teams just thrived. And that obviously leads to better service, obviously, and then the results come and the bottom line grows and everything else. But I think the book might have come out maybe 8 or 10 years ago. But it was, for me, it turned everything on its head, because it was like empowering people, rather than that old cliched view of sort of squashing them and considering all the financials first. It was, how can we grow these people, and so they can step into their higher selves, and by doing that, then the production increases and the efficiency and everything else. It was a truly amazing book.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's Frederick Laloux. It looks
That's
like.
it. Yeah.
So I haven't read that one. I'm gonna have to read that. I've taken a lot out of the books of Peter Drucker. I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah.
And he was actually let go from, I want to say GM. I think it was GM. I can't remember, because he told their leadership what was wrong with their leadership and all of this stuff, and you need to empower people, and they let him go. So he was way ahead of his time. And I'm such a big believer of that. We give our team the power to make their own decisions. And they make their own decisions as long as, number one, it's good for the company, number two, it's good for the team, and number three, it's good for our clients. Because if the company's not thriving, not only financially, but culturally, it's really hard for us to be able to pay for our staff or be able to be there for them and support them with the tools that they need. And if I don't take care of the team, then how in the world can I expect them to be motivated to take care of our clients? So giving them the power to make decisions without all that red tape or, hierarchy and stuff like that keeps things moving like a small, well-oiled machine. And I say small for like small business mentality. And this is particularly the reason we don't work with large or medium-sized companies, because that red tape and legal gets involved, and it takes an act of God to make a change. We want to keep that going quickly as possible. We also have a word of the year every year. 2 years ago, focus, finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions. Last year, listen intentfully and soulfully to engage notably. And this year it's kindness. And kindness illuminates natural decency by creating neoteric energy with selfless statements. And what's really cool about this stuff is we focus on being kind to one another and being kind to our clients. And conversely, if one of our clients is not kind to our DAs, or DAs not kind to our clients, we nip that in the bud really quick. So there's a tone that we have that's defined by our word of the year that we really try to embrace and practice. And after practicing this for a year, it becomes habit. So we have our focus sessions. We learn how to listen. That's why we have 2 ears, 1 mouth. I know I'm talking a lot today.
And you're the guest, though. You're supposed to.
But I've really concentrated on that. And then we also do the kindness, because you have to be kind. Believe it or not, that's being different.
And talking about that, the book I'm reading presently is Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. I've recently started it. I'm in the first third, and I'm not a military man, but at all. But what is obviously the underlying message which I've gained in the first portion of the book, which is how I was introduced to the book, is really taking responsibility. And for me, it's a concept which wasn't taught to me, and it was a concept which was missing from my whole life. And then as soon as I started stepping up and taking responsibility, it was like the boat started shifting. And it was fairly effortless. It wasn't that I had to work hard at it. I just had to be brave enough and vulnerable enough. And that's really what Jocko was saying, the first chapter about the battle and how it went wrong. And he said it was brave and he felt vulnerable, but he stepped up. And by doing that, it wasn't a matter of pushing people away. People actually became stronger, his team. And then that infiltrated sort of throughout the team. And then when he's seen other leaders, which he's trying to train within the SEALs, and they aren't taking responsibility, he sees those negative effects within the training scenario. And maybe you would like to just talk about that, being because for me it's hearing you and listening to Glenda as well, the kindness, the focus, it all infiltrates down. And I think in many ways people feel a bit vulnerable, maybe admitting to being kind or admitting to being gentle. It's sort of not really a man thing, right? It's sort of where you have this harder exterior. But by stepping up through our vulnerability to take responsibility and admitting that we've screwed up and those sort of things, the sense of passion and the sense of sort of coming together increases tenfold, right?
Oh, absolutely. Anything that is a failure in this company, which is okay, it's okay to fail. Any challenge that we, or maybe whatever promise maybe we fell short of, or whatever that happens, I take full 100% unequivocal responsibility for that. Anything that we achieve and are successful at, it's the team's effort. And I think if you go into it with that mentality, the team hears this, the team sees you. And even though you don't say anything to the team from time to time, they can read. They're smart people, human beings can pick up on BS.
Feel it.
It's there. There's no hiding that. And once you actually, even in the beginning, when you don't understand this, which I didn't understand in the beginning, I started practicing it, and pretty soon it became habit, and pretty soon I believed it because I was seeing the results that was happening. And now I embrace that. And now some people just are genuine from the beginning and they get through it. I have to admit, when I first started, I had no customers. I kind of faked it till I made it. Somebody asked me if I could do something. I said, oh yeah, no problem. And then I went and researched it and figured out how to do it. If I could take that back, that's something that I would take back. I would have maintained, you learn over time. So I would have practiced my vulnerability and said, you know what? I don't know that. I'm very confident that I could figure it out. If you would trust me to do that, I would love to do that on your behalf. And you know what? I'll give you a discounted rate if you'll give me an opportunity to work with you and gain this experience for you. I'd be happy to do that. Oh my gosh, people would probably say, oh yeah, sure, 100%. I'd be happy to do that. I think over time and that old 50-year-old mark came in and you learn a couple things over time and the years that you've been on this earth. And pretty soon you just have to embrace it. This is who I am. Hopefully this will attract a similar belief system with other people. And so far it's holding true. And I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say the final thing there, Jamie, it all comes down to trust, right? Like being authentic, creating culture, being vulnerable, walking one's walk, walking towards gentleness, kindness, all these wonderful qualities. Trust is really, you can't even put a value on trust, can you? I mean, it's sort of this transparent energy which just when people are walking that walk, the trust is such a strong bond, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's something that takes so long to obtain and can be lost in a heartbeat. Yeah. And I think the thing with trust and in the business world for me is a lot of time we get a paralysis by analysis because we're not quite sure. We don't have that 100% trust. There's a book written by Jeffrey A. Green called Crossing the Chasm. And in that book, 2.5% of us are the crazy people. We're the innovators. We're just nuts for starting something new. 14% of that, I think the figure he used in the book was 13.4. But that's your kind of your sphere of influence. Those are the people that say, oh my gosh, Jamie, you're doing anything. I'm in. What can I do to support you? Like they've got your back. Those people trust you. And you need that to challenge the viability and see whether or not this thing is going to work out and find out where the friction points are and then identify challenges and overcome those. Then there's a chasm. There's a gap of space that goes to what I call what he refers to as the early adopters, which is about 35, 36% of the population. These are the people that will try something when it first comes out. You know, when the iPhone first came out, all those people right there in line, those were the early adopters. There's a couple people that were kind of like, I want to see what goes on with this new version thing, whatever, right? Those people come later, but those early adopters are people that I do not know. However, they've recognized some viability in that product or service, and they're willing to do it. But that chasm, that's what it takes some time to get there, to check out that viability. And a lot of that has to do with trust. I go back to this trust factor. When you first do that as an early adopter, you kind of have to just step off the cliff, so to speak, you know, just kind of do it and hopefully build trust over time. It's the latter half of that 34% that need to have that trust come in. Okay, I see it. I trust this product's working. I can see it here and here and here, social proof, all this stuff. Okay, now I'm ready to get it. Well, the challenge with that is that you're missing out on opportunities of new. And most likely because our technology moves so quickly, you know, and our world is getting so much smaller, you miss out on a lot of opportunity for growth and experience and education and training. And so I'm more along the lines of being kind of, I want to go out really quick and build trust over time. And that's just not true with everybody. So we have to attract those people that kind of are okay with trusting early on, and then be rewarded by us coming through and not over-promising and under-delivering.
So you got your new book out, right? Or is it?
Yes.
It
well,
yes,
September.
Finally. September.
It's coming out in September. Yes.
Tell us about it.
Oh, thank you for bringing this. I don't know if my marketing for this should be, it's probably going to be the worst book you've ever read, so that I can kind of get rid of my imposter syndrome. I am deathly
Jaime,
afraid of this.
I'll pause you for a second there. I read annual reports all week long, and the worst are the ones coming out of the really massive companies that were written by a team of people, and it's this long. So you can't do any worse than those kind of annual reports, man.
From your lips to God's ears, like, please let that be true. Like, I am so worried. I work so hard on this thing, but I can look at a piece of art and go, wow, that's amazing. Or I could read a book and go, well, that was a good book. Creating that art is a whole other story. I give it up to authors and creatives and people that just are able to imagine things out of thin air. It's what a talent that they have. That is not me. I can take information and decipher it and pick up on it pretty quick and implement. I really enjoy that. But this was a different challenge. It's called Quit Repeating Yourself. And Scott Beebe has a saying, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. I think I've shared that with you, Mike, before.
Yep.
And quit repeating yourself basically says to document everything that you're doing, so that you don't have to do it over and over and over again. The good news about being a good leader is, by being a good leader is, first and foremost, create an environment that you're surrounding yourselves with people that align with your vision. That's culture, behaviors, how people behave in the organization. The next is setting up your systems and processes. That's strategy driven. Culture eats strategy. Peter Drucker. Culture eats strategy for breakfast is what he said. So develop the culture by aligning people that have a similar core belief system that as you do. And then the systems and processes, so culture and leadership is the first part. The second part of the book is systems and processes. And it's really important to document everything that you're doing so that you do it as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. And this offers scalability and growth. This also gets a lot of the stuff that's in here outside. When I say in here, for those that are listening to this, I'm pointing to my head. And you're taking all of that stuff that's in there. And when you do brain dumps like that and you document it, and I like to do it by sharing a video of myself, and I say maybe a screen share and saying, okay, this is what I want to do here. This is how I check my emails. This is how I do my calendar, whatever it is. And I kind of go through that. And then I document those in a step-by-step. Now we're in a technological age. Every time you click the mouse button, that's a step. Write down what you're going to do that step. Go to this website, screenshot. Step 2, login in the upper right-hand corner, screenshot, everything. What I found when we're doing that and you systemize it, now you have structure, and now that embraces the cultural environment, that the cultural aspects of having a positive workplace. And what happens when you do stuff like that is nobody likes doing a lot of the things that don't give them energy. I would say nobody likes doing any of the things that don't get them energy, but it's part of what you have to do in order to get things done. And if you can just think about this, celebrate, this is the last time you're ever going to do it. So document it clearly so that you can bring somebody else on and you could delegate those tasks. And guess what? That person that you brought on to do that, maybe it's bookkeeping, maybe it's, writing report. These people love it. They actually I have someone that loves writing. I hate writing. We have a writer that absolutely thrives on it. We have somebody that loves building websites. I can't stand building websites. But as long as you can document that process through systems, processes, and workflows, you get that all off your table. Man, what a relief. And then the third part of the book, and quit repeating yourself, is building up a good recruiting program for your company, and then how you hire somebody effectively. And fortunately, I fired over 1,000 people in the past 15 years. And so I've learned a lot about that. And so I just pretty much share what we do. And the reason why Quit Repeating Yourself is the title of the book is because I think it's really important for you to document everything that you're doing in your company, make yourself a little bit replaceable, so that you can go on and continue to focus on that high level activity, like doing podcasts and writing books and, traveling to events and doing the things, being the advocate for your brand that you really should be doing, instead of having your nose in bookkeeping and payroll and all of that stuff.
That's great stuff. So any parting words for our audience, business advice, things you've learned? How to
create your own ripple. Create your own ripple.
I love it.
I love it. Perfect.
All right, folks, we're going to have links down below where you can get Jaime's book, and you can find Bottleneck Distance Assistance. We'll have all that info down below the video.